Hey everyone, it's Bigfoot. Today's Tuesday and I'm answering another question that you guys have for me. Today's question comes from Martin, and the question is, I would like to see how you dealt with rain, especially in the morning, how you managed to pack all your stuff in your tent in the morning with the rain. Now, it's not raining here in Minnesota. If anything, it's snowing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I did pack my pack, and the manner in which I did it would be the same if it was downpouring rain or if it was sunny outside. So, having said that, let's get started. All right, well, I want to talk briefly about what I have sitting out here. This is everything that I brought with me on the Appalachian Trail, and then we'll go into how I actually packed it. So over here, I have my electronics and just a couple of hygiene items. It'll make sense why I have it arranged as it does. Here's all my electronic cords and my backup battery. Toilet paper. I have my stick pick over here. This is my ditty bag, so it's got all of my personal hygiene items and just knickknacks, things that belong somewhere, and just put it in there. I got my water filter here, water bottles. Here's my front 4-in-1 multi-pack. Then I have my Z-seat, my rainwear here. And this dry bag right here is all of my clothing. And then I have my sleeping bag and my air mattress, my Z-Packs duplex tent, and then I have my food bag here. And I love Doritos, so I made sure that this was a part of my video. What the best method that I found in packing your pack is what is going to make it easiest for you. What do you need that you need to get at most frequently, because you're going to need that on the very top of your pack. And what kind of things are you not going to need throughout the day, because you can put that towards the bottom of your pack. Now typically how you want to arrange your pack is you want to have your lightest stuff towards the bottom of your pack, followed by the middle with heavier items. The heavier the item, the closer that it is to your back, will help distribute that weight and keep it closer to your body and won't throw you off. And anything that I needed access to very easily, then I put at the very top. So for me, when I was in my tent, the first thing that I would always break down was my sleeping bag first. Because I broke down my sleeping bag first, I would pack this in the bottom of my pack first. So that went in first. And then at that time, I would deflate my air mattress and I would change all of my clothing. So the next things that I would put in after I changed my clothing, deflated my air mattress, was my clothing and my air mattress. Now, when I was in the AT, I actually put my air mattress inside of this medium-sized dry bag, but just for demonstration purposes, I put it on the outside so you could see that I had the air mattress and how I packed that. Now, the next thing that I did was pack my food. Now, before I packed my food, as you guys know, I had the Z-Packs 4-in-1 multi-pack, and I would fill up the front pouch with all of the food that I needed for the entire day. I would eat out of this, I would grab my breakfast out that I would eat in the morning, and all the bars, all the snacks, everything that I needed, so I didn't have to go back into my food bag. Now, I did not cook on the trail, so for some of you this might not work, but for me it worked out really well. So pretend for the moment that everything is packed in here. I have all the food that I need. So the next thing that I would do then is pack my food bag. Now, of course, depending on where you're at with your resupply will dictate how big your food bag is. Now, I'll come back to my Doritos in just a moment. Now, at this point in time, I got my sleeping gear, my clothing, and I got my food all packed in my Z-Pack. So the next thing that I did was scrounge everything up that I had, and sometimes some of these things just never left the place where they were in my pack. So starting off, that was my water filter. Now, sometimes I would pack my water filter in my side pockets of my Z-Packs Arc Blast, and then sometimes I put it in the mesh pocket. So I'm just going to put it in the mesh pocket because that's where I typically would start it on the day. And then my rain gear, anything that really I needed accessible that I didn't want to have to open up my actual bag for, I would put in the mesh pocket of my Arc Blast on the outside here. Typically, I didn't have to use this very often because it didn't rain as much last year, and even though I didn't use it that often, I did want to have it very accessible. So this usually went in the very bottom of my mesh pocket. Now my Doritos, I couldn't live without these things. Now what I would do with these is actually put them on the outside of my mesh pocket unless if it was raining. Most of the time it wasn't. Those of you that followed me on the journey probably saw that where I packed this most often, but that's where I put my Doritos. Now my Z seat, I would put in the lashings in the very bottom of my Arc Blast here. I mentioned about some of my hygiene items and then my headlamp. I actually would keep my headlamp almost all the time in my multi-pack. And the reason I did that is because I did a lot of night hiking. Towards the middle to the end of my hike, I was behind and I needed to take advantage of the daylight sometimes and the night. So I would typically put it in here because I just didn't want to try to find it and pull it out of my pack, and that was a great place for it. In addition to that, I always kept my Body Glide in my multi-pack because I would often have to reapply my Body Glide 2 times a day. Alright, my chapstick, I would always place in the same place where I put my Swiss Army knife, my little mini Swiss Army knife, and that was in my Z-Packs shoulder pouch. There's a little mesh pocket that you can see right here. And that was just handy to not just put these 2 things, but sometimes I'd also put my headphones in there. So that worked really great. Toilet paper. This was really the last thing that I would place in my mesh pocket. It would go on the top because typically if I needed it, I needed access to it very fast. So that's where I kept that. All right, a few other things. My water bottles. I had 1 liter water bottle that I'd place in my side pouch, and then I had a 17 ounce or 16.9 ounce Dasani water bottle. This would go in my shoulder pouch. Now, I would always have the water bottle, the 1 liter, on the opposite side of this water bottle because I found that it actually distributed my weight better. When I had this on this side, I could feel the difference in weight kind of leaning towards my left side. So that was important to distribute that weight. My GPS, I would keep in my belt pouch here. And what I would basically do is zip it up and keep the antenna sticking out so it had a clear signal to the sky. As I mentioned before with my headphones, I would either keep them in my mesh pouch here or in my 4-in-1. Most of the time, I think I kept it in my 4-in-1 pack, but it actually worked out better here in the mesh pouch on my shoulder pouch. My stick pick, which I actually didn't have for most of the time because I sent my GoPro home, but if I had my stick pick, I would actually keep it in my 4-in-1 pack so I have easy access to it. So what I have left here is my ditty bag, my electronics bag, my 4-in-1 pouch, and my tent. So what I would do then is when I would leave the tent, I would just throw my electronics bag and my ditty bag in the top of my pack so I could have everything out to break down my tent. And my 4-in-1 pack would have been attached to my pack by this time. After I broke down my tent, then I would remove my electronics bag, my ditty bag, and put my tent right above my food bag. And then I replaced my ditty bag with my electronics bag, because if there was anything that I had to actually get inside of my pack during the day, it was things that I had in these two bags. So that would wrap up how I'd pack my pack, roll it up. And then I would be ready to go. Now, I mentioned that I use this technique whether it was raining or not. The only difference that I really would have if it was downpouring rain is I would close the top of my pack after I put my ditty bag and my electronics bag inside of it before I broke down my tent, so that I didn't have any water that entered my pack while I was breaking down my tent and putting it away. And then, of course, I would open it back up and then throw my tent in and rearrange that ditty bag and electronics bag on top. But that's how I did it. It worked out really well for me. My pack weight was averaging somewhere around that 20 to 21 pounds when I was fully stocked with water and food. And then when I was going into town, I probably had somewhere closer to about 13 pounds. But this worked for me. It felt good on my back. And I will tell you that everyone will be maybe just a little bit different. I would practice this a little bit when you're on the trail. There is a science between where you place things in your pack with the weight distribution. Again, generally you want to have the light stuff on the very bottom, followed by middle weight, and things that are heaviest you want as closest to your back as possible. Right now, right in the middle here is where I got my food bag, which is always going to be the heaviest thing that's in my pack. And then again, my tent on top. Now, another reason why you want to put your tent on top is when you get into camp, that's the first thing that you need to break out. You're going to set up your tent first and then go on from there. All right, well, that's what worked for me, guys. And this is how I'll continue to pack all of my gear. It felt great. I was well balanced. And the most important part is when I had to get into camp, everything that I needed at the very top, I had, so I can get camp set up as fast as possible. But that does it for me, guys. Thanks so much. Stay tuned for next sighting, and remember to always follow Bigfoot.